everyone. Hi everybody, it's Alisa Vitti here, founder of Flow Living, author of The Woman Code, I'm just lowering the camera, and creator of the My Flow app. And I'm really excited today because we're going to be talking about a really fun question that I get asked a lot. I think anytime women get together and they're talking about their periods, it seems like the question of, does yours sync with the moon come up? Does it have to? What does it mean? Which one should it happen on? And I often hear when people find out what it is that I do and I help women with their periods, they're like, oh, I get my period on the full moon, like clockwork or whatever. And so I wanted to kind of just talk about the topic and welcome you all. So let me know you're here. Drop your thoughts in. And I have a question to open it up for all of us. So my question is, does your period come on the full moon or the new moon? I kind of want to take a little survey. So let me know, type in below, full moon or new moon. I kind of just want to do a little test to see where everybody's at. And I'm just welcoming all of you from all over the world. I'm so happy to be spending time with you today. Today's going to be a little bit shorter. You might notice I look a little fancier than I normally do. I have to go tape a segment for a new health and wellness show, so I'll share more details of that. So instead of a whole hour, we're going to have to do this all in like a half an hour. So share with me if it comes on the full moon or the new moon. And for those of you who are joining, welcome. I'm Alisa Vitti, founder of flowliving.com, author of Woman Code, and creator of the My Flow app, the first and only period tracking app that also fixes what symptoms you're having. I mean, what's the point of tracking if you can't get better next month? So I'm getting some answers below. Full moon, ovulating so you're answering the question, do you get your period, your bleeding, start on the full moon or the new moon? And I just want to kind of cover quickly the moons. So you can imagine that I have all sorts of props for things. I wanted to kind of quickly go through them. My daughter and I track the moon. She's 2. She'll be 2.5. And so these are the cards we use to track the moon. These actually come from her wall in her bedroom. And we check out the moon every night. Since we live in New York City, it's kind of like our little ritual. Where's the moon? What's the moon doing? So these are little cards for her. So they're good for a 2-year-old. They're good for us because we don't know these things. Okay, so this is technically the waxing crescent. This is like the beginning of the cycle, the follicular growth of the moon. The moon has just left the new moon, no moon. You can't see any moon, okay? And then you've got the moon is beginning to grow, okay? And then you get the waxing quarter moon, so it's growing even more from the crescent to that. And then there's a gibbous in there, but I just took it out for speed. And then you've got the full moon, okay? And then look, it's starting to go the other way. We have the waning quarter moon, and then we have the waning crescent, and then no more moon, right? New moon, no moon is really the deal. So these are the phases of the moon, and if you kind of think about the ovary and what's happening on the ovary, this actually really mirrors exactly what's happening in the life of an ovum. You've got the beginning of the follicular phase here. Little follicles are forming along the ovary, and then you have them getting bigger, and then one juicy, ripe egg breaks free and bursts forth into the fallopian tube and travels down into the uterus. And then we have the corpus callosum, the sac from which that full mature egg burst, making more progesterone, right? And then that gets reabsorbed into the body, and then we shed the lining of the uterus on the new moon. So this is typically what an actual cycle, if you were really synced up to the phases of the moon, that's actually what it should look like. You should be ovulating on the full moon and menstruating on the new moon. Now, it'd be nice to say that that's what you should be doing. The first and foremost thing I want to say is, as long as you're cycling regularly, okay, and you have a predictable cycle and you're feeling symptom-free and it comes when it should come, then that's the most important thing. Because we are living so out of touch with light and dark circadian rhythms, okay, I live in the brightest, ridiculous part of Manhattan right now. I live in, just a very light polluted environment, as we all do. And not to mention we're exposed to screens and all that, and I'll get into that in a second. Our ability to make adequate levels of melatonin are being compromised. And when that happens, it throws off our ovulatory circadian rhythm and we can have irregularities in our cycle. So the fact that you may not be synced to the moon has a lot to do with the fact that you might not be exposed to the moon. I mean, it's the moon we can see most of the time in the city, but we have to go searching for it. If you live in suburbia, it might be easier for you to track the moon from your home. If you live in a less light polluted location. But if you're someone who can't access the moon and you want to be syncing to the moon, one of the things I recommend that you do is go online and download a lunar phase calendar for the year and be looking at that calendar every day. There is something about that really starts to help you sync up a little bit more to the lunar calendar. It's sort of a mysterious thing. It shouldn't work, but it does, because really what you do need is to be exposed to light and dark in these particular ways to really get the full benefit of syncing up to the moon. But there's some other things that you can do at home, and I want to help you if those of you who want. I'll answer questions in a minute, but the thing I want to say is I'm here to discuss the interesting topic of menstruating and cycling with the moon and what it should be and, is it important? And so what I want to just say off the bat is if you're not cycling with the moon, it's okay. If you want to cycle with the moon, there are ways that I'm going to teach you that you can, but it shouldn't be something that you feel like it's not a symptom. There's nothing wrong. It's just, part of, we're living in a time where we're not so in touch with the light and dark patterns. We're not living when there was no electricity, for example, and it was more likely that you would be synced up with the moon. But as soon as electricity started and you could turn the lamp on at night in your house, it really started to shift things quite a bit for our circadian rhythms and our melatonin production. I think that if your cycle's a little bit irregular, it can be, you can have this feeling that you wish you were more synced up to the moon. And again, I want to give you some tips today as to what you can do to help yourself do that. So I want to start with, I want to have another question. So I want to know from you what you think about this whole, moon phase thing and, syncing your period. Do you think that's great? Do you want it to be the case? Is it interesting to you? Just answer below, what do you think about syncing with the moon and your period? Is it important to you? Do you want to sync up to the moon? Are you already synced up to the moon? I want to kind of get to know you a little bit. So tell me a few thoughts of yours about your cycle and, do you want to learn more? Because, this is a whole conversation. It's not just me blabbing at you on the camera. Okay, cool. So people want to learn more about it. I have a really cool little historical reference for you. So traditionally, we sync the way that I kind of laid out the lunar cards for you, right? So we typically would follow the patterns of nature. So we would be ovulating on the full moon, and we would be menstruating on the new moon. It's interesting too, because the full moon period for the full moon phase is actually a very fertile time for nature in general, because plants get a little bit of extra juice from the full moonlight during their growth cycle. So it is actually a time of increased fertility. What's it called? The thing with the ocean, the tide. There we go. My daughter woke me up 7 times last night, so I'm really rocking the under eye concealer today. The tides are higher during a full moon, so the earth is really engaged with this full moon energy, and so are we. So technically, In an ideal scenario, you would be ovulating with the full moon and menstruating with the new moon. And that's called a white moon cycle. It's a fertile cycle. It's, if you're like trying to, have a baby, you're being your reproductive prime. This white moon cycle is what it's historically referred to. But there's also a red moon cycle. And the red moon cycle was traditionally something that you would have healers and witches and midwives and the herbal women of the community. They would be on a red moon cycle, so they would actually menstruate on the full moon, and I'm assuming that they would be doing all sorts of rituals with that menstrual blood to add to the fertility of the earth. And then they would be ovulating on the new moon, and what would be interesting is because they would be in their ovulatory phase when the majority of the community was bleeding, right? They could actually tend to those women because they would have their ovulatory energy and their extra testosterone and stamina and all of that. So that's called a red moon phase, and that's if you're on that cycle, you may be a healer. You may be called to that kind of work. I have had both experiences. Right now I'm really in like mama land, so I'm in a white moon cycle. But before I was in more of a red moon cycle, so it can switch, and you can switch it. And what's interesting too is that, I was noticing in my 20s when I finally was able to bring my cycle back. And for those of you who are just joining, I'm Alisa Vitti. I'm the founder of Flow Living, author of Woman Code, creator of the My Flow app. And we're talking about syncing your period with the moon, and is it important, and do you need to do it, and da-da-da. And when I, from 12 to 22, I didn't have a period at all. In case you didn't know, I wasn't menstruating at all. I was suffering with a condition that no one was diagnosing me with at the time called polycystic ovarian syndrome, and so I didn't get a period at all. And when I did finally get it, I was like all about it in my 20s. And I just remember really wanting to sync with the moon, and so I had developed some really great strategies because I was already living here in the city, which is very light polluted. And one of the things that I noticed when I started looking at the lunar phase calendar was that there are 13 rotations of the moon during the year. And I sometimes noticed that at certain parts of the season, and I don't remember now if it was on equinoxes or solstices or something, but there would be something going on with the moon and the sun that would sort of create a little shift in my period, and I would have, all of a sudden it would flip-flop 1 month out of the year. So you might notice if you're syncing with the moon that because there's this 13th moon, that there may be some shift in your cycle. So for 2015, you always got your ovulation on the 15th of the month, and then you got your period on the 28th. But 2016, it shifted a little bit. And if you're really synced with the moon, that actually is appropriate, right? So again, just understanding that there's a difference between Chronos time and Kairos time. These are Greek terms, Chronos meaning chronological time, and Kairos meaning the time when things are meant to be, the time when things are, the thing, how do I explain it? It's such an interesting philosophical kind of term. Kairos meaning things take the time they take, right? Chronos meaning this is the time where we are ascribing to something, right? And even in our relationship to our periods, right? Because we have been conditioned to think that they have to happen at the same time every month, and it has to be perfect clockwork. I mean, this is a whole patriarchal superimposition onto our female cyclical nature that is not really healthy for us to even have that expectation of our bodies. And just when we look at the lunar phases and our cycle and how we are designed to be influenced by that, I mean, remember, people go into labor more during a full moon because of those tidal, the effects of the full moon on the water systems of the planet and the amniotic fluid and the whole thing. We are creatures on this ecosystem of Earth, and we are affected by everything in its experience, and the moon is one of those things. And so the fact that we have an expectation that says, oh, my period has to come at the same day every month, is not necessarily true. And it would be much healthier for you to build a relationship of observation and response to what's happening with your cycle. Like, I never got freaked out, for example, when I was syncing with the moon, if I had that month where everything flipped a little bit, right, by a few days, and then all of a sudden I moved into the new year, and my cycle was not happening the same day that it was the year prior, because then it was consistent for that year until that same lunar flip happened. So I never thought, oh, something's wrong. This is a problem. I have an irregular cycle. No, I just thought my physiology is reacting to the natural world around me, and how beautiful of an experience that is. So I really like to talk about it, not because I have any sort of like, I don't know, religious or pagan kind of viewpoint on it, but it's more of a scientific, we're in an ecosystem, and we are biological creatures within that ecosystem, and we are affected by it, however you want to interpret it or feel about it, that's just a fact. So it's really interesting to observe your reaction to it for your own self and see how you can use it to your benefit. So for those of you who want to sync your cycle with the moon, I have some things that I want to share with you. And I'm sad to say that today is going to be a slightly shorter Facebook Live, because that's why I'm all gussied up. I got to run to a taping, and I have to leave at 2:30. So I'm going to do my best to give you the juice really fast and answer a few questions. So keep your comments coming, and if I can't answer them all today, I'm going to type in my answers later, because I love you so much. I'm squeezing your face. Okay, so I'm looking at my notes because I have so many things to say. Okay, how to sync with the moon. Here we go. First and foremost, the thing you have to do is prepare yourself. What do I mean by that? You have to do what you can to offset the negative impacts of light pollution on your system. So where do we get that primarily? Regardless of if you live in an urban or more nature, suburban environment, the main source of light pollution that we're experiencing that is endocrine disruptive is from screens. Screen I'm looking at right now, the screen you're looking at right now, the laptop I'm looking at occasionally while I'm talking to you. All of that blue light is really specifically disruptive to the pineal gland, which is what secretes a hormone called melatonin. And that melatonin is what can, it is a very important part of the ovulation conversation. And when we don't make enough of it, we can actually not ovulate. So I would highly recommend that you download, there's an article on the blog on flowliving.com about, I think it's called Blue Light. We'll have to type it in the comments later. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's a little free piece of software that you can install on any screen that helps to counterbalance the blue light exposure with a little bit of a yellow haze. You can also buy actual physical screens to place on top of your laptop that are yellow. You can buy yellow like sunglasses that you would wear while you're working on the computer. This is very good stuff to do. And if you have teenage daughters who are trying to get their period and you want them to also make sure that they have a healthy cycle in that very crucial pubescent decade from, let's say, 12 to 22, when their brain and their ovaries are establishing that very important conversation of ovulation, you want to support that. You could get them the little yellow goggles to wear at home. Some of them look like sunglasses. Some of them look like chemistry lab glasses. You can get whatever you want and whatever's comfortable. But, they could just be wearing them starting at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon and all the way until whenever you have your screen time shut-off time, which I would recommend is no later than 9 o'clock. Wear that all when you're watching TV, when you're looking at stuff. It's a little funny. Yes, thank you, Maria Batiera Artun. What a beautiful name, and I'm sorry if I butchered it. It's F.Lukes. That's right. Great free software to download for your screens, and it really helps to tone down the blue light. It's not as good as the yellow goggles, but it's better than nothing. So I would first prepare yourself with that, okay? Then see if you can put yourself outside and go look for the moon. Go look. Go see where she is. Go see what she's doing. Where is she? We call her a she. We look for her. See what you can find. Go out there and see what you can find. And of course, having a lunar calendar on your fridge or on your wall somewhere is another great backup, because it'll sort of prime you to go look for the moon in the particular phase. And then you want to work that melatonin to your advantage. So when you do go to sleep, you want to sleep in a totally dark room. Okay, so you don't necessarily have to have blackout shades if you have if you're not in a very light polluted area. But like for where we are, it is light polluted. So in the bedroom, we do have blackout shades, and that's really, really important. So, the darker the room, the more melatonin you'll produce while you sleep, and that will help with your internal biology around ovulating regularly. And then when you expose yourself to not only the moonlight, but also the sunlight the next day, you really, really deeply engage these circadian processes within the body. And it's really, really cool how quickly you can sync up to the natural pattern of things. And then, see how far down the rabbit hole you want to go. You can do little rituals, on the full moon. Let's get my little full moon card up. I feel like such a teacher in a classroom today. Got my little cards. On the full moon, you can do a little ritual to honor the things that are ripening in your life, the things that are coming to fruition, the things that you're really excited about. You can just journal those things. You don't have to do anything fancy. You could light a candle. You could sit in the moonlight and just think about the moon. You don't have to do anything that special. And then on the new moon, you could do something else, like really just honoring, really trying to understand what it is your intuition is telling you. And of course, on the MyFlow app, and those of you who haven't downloaded, please do, myflowtracker.com, MyFLO tracker.com. This tells you what cognitively you should be focusing on in each phase of the cycle, which, if you're paying attention on the phases, you'll notice that we actually have the lunar calendar baked in there with the different shapes. So you actually are being synced to a white moon cycle in the app, if that's what you want to do. So you'll be prompted to do these types of like journaling exercises at the ideal time for not only your brain chemistry, but also to honor where everything is from a lunar perspective. So that's what I would say. Really try to get out of the blue light exposure too heavily. Really create a great sleep environment where you're, really having the that darkness and sunlight contrast really helps you sink into the natural circadian rhythms. And then just attune yourself to the fact that the lunar phases are shifting and that you are an organism responding to that stimulus. And just acknowledge, just having that thought and looking at the moon or looking even at a piece of paper that is a lunar calendar, right? I also have like a full year lunar calendar with every month with all the phases. That's what you can, even if you can't see the moon, just looking at that and doing the light and dark work and being in the mindset of wanting to attune to more of a natural, it's magic how it works, actually. I don't use the word magic very often, but I find this little lunar cycle thing to be quite magical. So download the app. And then, of course, always I'm here. Flowliving.com is the place for your period, right? So, of course, there's going to be some of you who are listening to this who have period irregularities, cycle irregularities. You may be postpartum, trying to get your cycle back and wondering what to do. The first thing to do is download myflowtracker.com and make sure that you are doing all the good work that you need to be doing with your diet, cycle syncing in the phases where you're prompted, diet and lifestyle and exercise, so that you can bring your cycle back to a regular 4-week, routine. And then you can really start to play with the lunar stuff. But at the same time, the lunar stuff can kind of help you, especially when it's about reestablishing ovulation. I really love this practice for women with PCOS, women with amenorrhea, and women who are postpartum. Just the lunar calendar piece alone and sleeping in darkness and being exposed to a good amount of sunlight every day and a little bit of moonlight at night if you can, really can help you more quickly reestablish a healthy cycle. Shayna, great suggestion. You have a suggestion for wearing an eye mask. Yeah, if you don't have blackout shades, that's a really good, much easier than installing shades option. So I like that, and good for you. Yeah, if you live in the city, you gotta find a way to like blot out the light, the light pollution. And then the other thing too is I think it's really interesting to use the observation of the lunar phases, right, to see where you're having the most trouble. You could have it at any of the phases. You could have trouble, during the follicular phase. You could feel really fatigued. That could be happening. During ovulation, you could be breaking out. During the full moon and ovulation, you could be breaking out with acne. You could have the middle schmerz, the pain and the cramping during that. It's like that lunar phase. As you move into the luteal phase here, this is like your luteal phase, you could have all sorts of symptoms. That's the PMS time. If you're going to have PMS, which you shouldn't have, and there's, I think, was it last week or maybe 2 weeks ago on our Facebook Live video feed, we talked all about PMS, so please go back and watch that if you haven't seen it. This is a time to notice, are you getting symptoms there? And of course, during menstruation, if you're following a white moon cycle, you could have lots of cramping, lots of arduous, physical experience of bleeding. And it's kind of important to just notice, sometimes I think we feel so disconnected from our cycles for many, many reasons. And maybe that's a whole other Facebook Live conversation, but fundamentally, we're not given any education at the critical times of our childhood when we should about how our bodies work, how we should nurture them with food and lifestyle. And then, of course, we're taught, in every context from, I'm not going to go all there, but like everywhere, it's like suffering is biblical, right? So that your body is designed to be problematic. So when you do have a symptom that comes up, you're conditioned from before you could even think about it, have your own opinion about it, to think that, oh, well, this is normal for me to have problems with my period, and I shouldn't take any action. Meanwhile, that couldn't be further from the truth. And I think by building a little bit of a relationship with the lunar calendar, it's a way for you to start having a better relationship with your own body, because there's like an external mnemonic of the moon to say, oh, okay, this is what's happening inside and outside, and how am I doing? It just prompts you to think about your body. And in a positive way, in a caring way, in a compassionate way, in a curious way, in a what's going on and do I need to do anything way. And I think that's the thing. That's the thing that we need to be doing, because what we do typically is we ignore ourselves. You know what I mean? We just power through and we ignore our pain and we say we should just put up with it. This is as good as it's going to get. And we just don't connect. We are more and more out of our bodies than we are in our bodies. And I have found, and I was way out of my body, my goodness, until I got better with the flow protocol and the monthly flow program that any of you who are suffering like I was should be doing. I was so out of my body. I felt uncomfortable just even, like, if people would ask me how I was, the only thing I could say was, I'm fine, because I was just so disconnected. Like, I'm fine. Don't ask me that. I don't want to know. I don't want to go in here and feel all these feelings. So there is a really beautiful coming home to yourself that can happen through the process of your cycle, actually. And so I'm inviting you to come do that, because I have done it. I have facilitated thousands of women to do the same, and I really would love for you to take that journey for yourself, because what's waiting for you on the inside of yourself is your passion, your purpose, and your joyful, peaceful, loving state for anything and everyone around you. And I think that we all want to feel more of those feelings. And your period, the whole period, which, you are in your cycle every day, you're just in a particular phase of it. Your whole cycle is a different door every day for you to open, to walk in and see yourself anew every single day. And if you need to start by having the lunar calendar as a way to remind you to connect and walk in that door and see what's going on, then do it. That is beautiful. That's nature's gift to women, the moon. And I read a quote recently and I just loved it. It said, if I have a good book, flowers, and the moon, I'm all right. I'll be okay. I'm like, yes, I couldn't agree more. So, I would just encourage you all to play with this a little bit. And I want to say again, for all of you who are listening, and I can't believe it's already 2:30, wherever you're cycling, as long as your cycle is healthy, your hormones are balanced, you are symptom-free every day of your cycle, because that is how nature has designed you to be hormonally balanced every day of your cycle, symptom-free every day of your cycle, right? I'm in my luteal phase, for example. Look at my skin, right? Look at my energy, look at my mood, right? So wherever you are in your cycle, you're supposed to be symptom-free. And if that's happening, then if you would like and you want to work on, being more in sync with the moon, then that's a great activity an experiment to embark on. But it by no means that you're unhealthy if you're not cycling on the moon. It just means that we're all living with a lot of light pollution and we aren't exposed to extreme darkness and extreme sunshine and moonshine in the times when that's supposed to be happening, where we would just, by nature of that happening on an every single day basis, be cycling with the moon. So that's what I have to say about that. Thank you, Casey. Yes, and for those of you who may not know, I always share close-ups of my skin because I used to have cystic acne everywhere, all over my forehead, and like here I would have like these, oh my gosh, everywhere, here and here and here and here. It was insane. And my chest and my back, and I wasn't getting my period for 10 years. So I'm really passionate about you having a healthy cycle because it's your biological destiny to be thriving in your female body every single day. And you aren't being told that, and I'm here to tell it to you until you know it to be the truth. I'm just feeling that. And then, you can start to play with these things about coming into really knowing yourself on a deeper level, because how can you do the self-exploration, the personal growth and development that you want to do, I know are women up to that. I know you're up to that in your life. If you are not hormonally healthy, this is your body. This is the foundation for you to explore the world and explore your inner world. And so your vessel, your container needs to be in optimal functioning for you to be a clear channel for everything that you're supposed to be listening to and receiving and moving forward. So I just want you to have the right information, understand how your body works, know how to nourish yourself properly at each phase of the cycle, and get yourself consistently month over month where you are symptom-free. Or if you do have a symptom, you know exactly what you did, what you ate, where you didn't get your sleep, what exercise you over, whatever stress, you know exactly what you did to have that symptom pop up, and you know exactly what to do to make it go away really quickly. And that's what it's been such a privilege to build this app, myflowtracker.com, because it's now literally in your hands, like having me in your back pocket, because any symptom you have, you can just tap on it and say, why am I having that symptom and what should I eat to fix it? And then how can I align myself in the cycle syncing feature with the right activities for each feature? So I hate to cut this beautiful, juicy conversation short, but as I mentioned at the top of the call, I have to go film a segment for a new health and wellness show, and I get a jet. I got to do like a little New York City, get on the subway and zoom downtown. So I love you guys so much. This is my favorite 2:00 conversation on Thursdays to be having with you about you we're talking about your period, but we're really talking about you, your optimal vitality, and your tapping into your potential, and you becoming the woman that you are destined to be. And I'm so excited that all of you are so excited to be sharing with me. I love all of you. I'm sending good juice to your ovaries and happy to see more of you cycling with the moon. And maybe we'll do some more on the moon. You never know. I'm very excited to hear your thoughts about what kinds of things you want me to talk about. This is a chit chat, right? So write in the comments below things you want me to chat about, and I will make that happen because we have weeks and weeks of this to do. So let me know what you want to chat about, and I'm so excited to read the things that you're curious about. You have to remember, I've been studying about, teaching about, talking about, dreaming about hormones and periods for 20 years. So it's really great to know what it is that you're curious about, because I've been on this exploration for a long time, and I might forget what a good question might be. So please support me in supporting you, and let me know what you want to hear. Okay, I hate leaving you, but it's now 20 minutes till this taping, and I gotta go. I love you all. I will talk to you next Thursday at 2 o'clock. Until then, take really good care of yourself and your cycle and your heart. And I will see you next time.